Former Federal Commissioner of Information and South-South leader, Pa Edwin Clark, has accused many state governors of using their position to amass wealth overnight to the extent of being wealthier than their states. Clark, who stated these in his 688-page autobiography titled Brutally Frank, regretted that corruption has been the undoing of Nigeria. The 25-chapter book, which was launched in Abuja last Thursday, revolved around Clark's journey as a classroom teacher, commissioner, minister, senator, and nationalist spanning over 70 years. In chapter 23, titled Kleptocracy in Our Society, from page 539 to 542, Clark took a swipe at some governors saying they were nowhere yesterday and have now become so rich and powerful overnight because they were elected as governors. He said Nigerian governors have enormous power but have done nothing with it other than enrich themselves, and some have become demigods because they own almost everything imaginable. He also re-emphasized that corruption has eaten deep into the fabric of society, and unless corruption is reduced, it will destroy Nigeria. Now, this brings us to the big question and the big story for today, which is what can be done to check these corrupt tendencies of some governors, and how, now that we have many new governors taking over the saddle of leading the state, is it not the best time to ensure that closer watch is made on them to see how they would use the resources of their state? Well, a look at this and many more as it concerns governance at the state level and corrupt nature of some governors will take center stage on the big story for today. And that is corruption. Some governors wealthier than their states. And that's what we're having as a major discourse today on the big story. We're looking at that very statement coming, a word coming from more of Chief Edwin Clark. We still remember he stated these in June, to be precise, and now having it in his book. But anyway, not in the books, but definitely right here in the studio. I have two guests, and introduce no other person but Honorable Clement Udukwe is the Labour Party House of Assembly candidate in the last concluded election. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, sir.
Well, also joining us as usual is our very own, and definitely you do know he takes on security watch on the program, on the station itself, all in the bid to talk about issues that concerns not just corruption, but all those ills that seem to be bedeviling the nation. I'm talking of no other but a comrade in his rights, and Comrade F.L. Good morning and welcome to the show also.
Oh yes, so I will always forgive you for some of those things because that's the only thing I can do for you right now.
Okay, well anyways, I'll need your forgiveness later, but for now, let's be frank with it. And I'd rather start with you now, sir. He's brutally frank in his assertion, and I'm talking of no other person but Chief Edwin Clark, that many governors have been wealthier, or rather have become wealthier than their state through corrupt means. And this will not be his first time he's saying so. Like I stated earlier, I could still remember in an interview he did with Arise TV during the chat about this current administration and the state of the nation and his expectation from this administration. He stated that in June. But in this, his 688-page autobiography, it seems to be loudest in his stance that many governors have now become richer than their state. So I'm really asking, is he brutally frank in his assertion, or was he just brutally attackful to these governors?
Mike the Mike.
I just want to view that.
The man is not alive, and the man has died. The two of them means the same thing from two different angles.
Okay.
You see, he's brutally frank.
Not brutally attackful.
No, it's brutally frank because what he has said is nothing but the truth. Sometimes in 2003, we went for a meeting somewhere in Uzebe, where one of the aspirants then to the House of Assembly under PDP said, the crumbs that fell out of the table of the governor during his meal is enough to feed the whole community. And then this Okuma was going for the governorship, I think, whether for the first time also.
Yeah.
So when they put all these issues on the table, and the guy made that statement, everybody looked at each other. Because one, they have enormous power to the state treasury than you can imagine. Whatever they say at the state level is a law. Either you dance to their tone in the House of Assembly, or you are easily eased out of the way. And that is why you can see that most of the allocations of the state goes nowhere apart from the governors saying yes or no. And once the governor says yes, that is yes. And if he says no, that is no. Have you been able to ask yourself or anybody any day what happens to security votes in the state?
We'll come to that. Are you saying their powers are just so enormous?
It's too enormous.
Nobody questions
the governor.
Their action.
Even they are more powerful than the head of state at the center.
Okay, well, anyways, I know many might disagree with you on that. Okay. But Honorable Clem, let me bring you into it. Yeah, it's a question I really did throw to him. Was Chief Edwin Clark a bit too tactful in his assertion that many governors are now where they are in their state, or do you feel he was really frank, as he said?
Yes, well, it's a personal opinion.
Okay.
But I also think it's a public opinion. You know, the perception about that statement is louder, is generally acceptable, considering the fact on ground of the disposition of governors, and not only governors, in quotes, politicians.
Okay.
I also want to add to his assertion that it's not just being like, you know, more wealthier than their states. They're also more powerful than anybody in the states. Now, the issue of corruption, I think, is an institutional issue.
Yeah.
It has already been a norm, you know, and that is why we need to actually tackle corruption as an institution, because it's a systematic problem. And as a governor, we're talking about security vote here. As a governor, we know you hold executive powers. You control all the resources of the state. But at the same time, you are a servant to the people. You are expected, you know, to deploy public, you know, resources for public good.
Okay.
And in the Nigerian system, I'm talking about the contemporary Nigeria now, you find out that an individual has become more powerful than a state. It's only obtainable in Africa. If you go to other developed countries in the Western world, it's difficult for you to point out to a particular man to say this man is where. It's unfortunate that we are debating in the studio about, you know, such kind of a matter, talking about an individual richer and more powerful than the state.
Now, this brings me to ask, Honorable Clem. Are you saying so much searchlight has always been beamed on the federal level? Hence, we rarely do these on the state level. We seem to always center more of our searchlight on the federal level on account of corruption, and hence giving these governors a free day to loot the treasury of the state. So do you feel that's the reason we're having so much governors now wealthier than their state? Because little or no searchlight is being beamed on them. And do you also feel that mind-blowing corruptions are happening in the state rather than so much in the center?
You know, that's why I said that the problem of corruption is systematic.
Yes.
Systematic in the sense that it's an upward, down to upward, you know, kind of operation.
Yeah.
There is no way you can actually beam the searchlights in the federal level without firstly talking about the local level.
But we see that in almost all media.
Yes,
everybody seems to be more centered on the federal.
I think it's a lack of orientation.
Okay.
Lack of orientation, and maybe the people lack awareness. But if you actually, you know, understand politics and governance, you will know that the corruption even happens more in the local level. Because in the central level, it's about the resources that comes in and is distributed to the various states, and the state they also distribute to the local level. So you cannot talk about corruption only in the federal level without firstly making reference to the state and the local level. In fact, I want to believe, it's my personal opinion anyway, that the corruption happens more even in the local level, because that is where the local man is expected to, you know, feel the impulse of good governance. So while they are not feeling it, you know, they tend to now look to the federal level, because everybody is talking about the president is not doing this, is not doing that. The federal lawmakers are not doing this, are not doing that. But they also fail to understand that the resources has always been channeled to the local level. So the local managers, we have failed in that area to beam our searchlight on them, to hold them accountable, to make them responsible for our well-being and in dispatch of good governance. So we tend to now look at the federal level, because every now and then everybody is talking about the president is not doing this, president is not doing that. So I think the more awareness and more orientation should always boil down to
and at the local level.
Now,
yes. Comrade Odomo, I want you to react to that, because I'm really, really keen in getting your assertion on it. It looks as if we're always looking at the federal, because that's where the control is. And because of that, mind-blowing corruption seems to be happening in the state level, with little or no
nothing to show as development.
But apart from development, is it that we beam our searchlight so much on the federal level that will let the states have a free day in whatever they are doing?
Yes, definitely.
And the governors are using that as a yardstick to loot and also impoverish their states.
Mike, it's like the governors, I think it's only in Nigeria we have a governors forum that are even more powerful, telling the Mr. President in most cases on what to do. I don't think we have it in other areas, but we have Nigerian Governors Forum. Not only that, we have the Northern Governors Forum, we have the Southern Forum, everybody forum. But we've been ignorance of it at the state level. And the white man will tell you that nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance. When you are ignorant and you are sincere about the ignorance, and again, conscious emptiness will give us a lot of problems. Excuse me.
Yeah.
The governors, as at today, they are a law. Now you are contesting an election. Somebody will come and tell you, governors say, this is the person the people want. No, governors say this is the person people want. And if you say no, nothing comes to you. On monthly basis, these governors have their allocations from the Federal Allocation Committee. They call it FAC. They have their allocation. Has anybody been able to question any state governor or the state government what and how they've been dispensing that money? Has anybody been able to question how contracts are being awarded? Has anybody been able to question the government how the fallouts of the contract sum is being distributed? If it was not Oyo State, that young governor, Makinde, what is his name?
Sheyi Makinde.
Sheyi Makinde. When he came into office, the first contract they sent to him to approve for execution, he said, what is this 10%? They said, Governor, that is for you. What is this? So they say is for your aid. What of this 5% is for your governor's wife? The man said no. Remove all these ones. This is the normal contract sum. He said, okay, take this normal contract sum and go and execute that project. I have my money. I'm not going to take that governor's money. If not for that, too many people are in the dark about how this money goes in the government. Let us be able to sit down one day and account for the resources that is accrued to every state on a monthly basis. Until we do that, the governors will continue to feast on every one of us, thinking that they are helping us. We are supposed to be a servant when you are in that position. But what do we have these days? They are masters of every other person. The amount of money that goes into the state governors, let us not personalize that. Go
to the state.
To the state.
Yeah,
if they put or they're able to plow 80% of that money into the projects that we are talking about, nobody will talk about the federal.
No, let's still remain there, because you just highlighted something I want us to dwell on. In March this year, a report came out that the elected governors that are now governors as they are,
yes,
were indebted with a tune of 2.1 trillion naira. That's $1.9 billion that their predecessors would leave for them to deal with. And like you stated earlier, a lot of money have been coming to the states on account of federal allocation. And we're not even talking about the internally generated revenue. We're not talking about that.
But 5 sources of revenue to the states.
Yes. Now,
5 sources.
Look at it, and yet most states are so indebted. The 3 most indebted states as it stands are Lagos, Delta, and funny enough, the Oyo State you've talked about. But
yes,
let's look at it. These are states that have had great number of allocation allocated to them. And funny enough, they are now even indebted with a tune of almost 2.1 trillion.
Yeah. Are you surprised?
Debt hovering around their head and little or nothing to show on ground. So let's look at what impact, Comrade Odomo,
yes, I'm hearing you.
This recklessness of some governors have had on the lives of their citizens.
Now let's make a little calculation, Mike. A state in this country, I don't want to mention names so that they will not say that this person is either pessimistic or is after somebody or is this.
Yeah.
A state in this country once had 5,600 essays. Most of them don't know their ways to the state capitals. They stay in their houses, they give them their letter of employment, and they submit their account numbers. Because they will say you come and swear an oath. That's where you put your account number. Like the number they did just of recent.
Anyway, you just send me prayer to my mailbox rather.
Okay,
anyway, just go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you are blessed.
Okay,
the prayer is sent.
Hallelujah. Just go ahead.
You know, now 5,600 people on payroll of the government without them having offices, without them having even line of duty to follow. If you are even paying them just 200,000 naira, how much is that? 200,000 naira will give you about 11 million. For doing nothing.
Monthly.
For doing nothing. Multiply it by 1 year, multiply by the 8 years that the guy is going to be in office. That is if he doesn't come back after the second tenure. How much is that one? The state governors should be able to at least serve the purpose of which they are there. There are governors in this country. Almost all the filling stations we have is owned by them. Most of them fly private jets. I was in Abuja 2 years ago when somebody was wedding, the daughter of a wealthy politician was wedding. They call it a blue line. That place is a restaurant, very mighty. It's outside, open space. Where I was able to count 29 aircrafts that landed in Abuja for that wedding. And these are the monies of the taxpayers. These are the monies that have been allocated from the federal to the state. When Obasanjo was in office, he did publish every allocation to the states on monthly basis. He did it for 3 months. The governors went, I think they went to court and they stopped it. That's it's unconstitutional. What is unconstitutional about your money and my money that somebody is keeping? That you want me not to know about it. What's it when you say somebody is an auditor? What is the word audit? Audit is a Latin word. All of us have pooled resources together. We cannot sit in the same place to manage that money. Therefore, we appointed a separate person to run it and tell us the true position of the company. That is what they call the true and fair of any financial statement. Is it true? Is it fair? Is it valuable? Is it timely? Is it correct? Now you are not telling us that that man has no right to do it. And you are holding my money, using it the way you want. What is wrong if any of these state governors said, okay, federal, okay, everybody is blaming you, you have failed. Agreed. The money you have given to me, I'm going to face IPP, Independent Power Project, in one senatorial district this month. Another 3 months, I face another senatorial district. Another month, I face another senatorial district. If they are able to solve this power problem we have in the country, don't you think we will be out of this place we are?
And we're saying the woods on that, but let me come to you, Honorable Clement. And, what impact have these really greatly have on the lives of the citizens, especially as you count? Because we see many times that some of these governors will even tell you, as of last count, almost 13 state governors were not even able to implement the 30,000 minimum wage that have been signed into law for a couple of years now. And the reasons they keep giving is that they don't have the money.
Of course.
But when you look at most of their lifestyle, you want to imagine that the former governor in a very poor northern state had fleet of cars in his compound that the EFCC raided. And yet he could not pay salaries for 8 months or so. And not just only that, recently a governor in the Middle Belt owed salaries of 8 months to workers, and he has one of the most expensive farms, not in Nigeria, but in the whole of West Africa. So let's look at the impact this has had on the lives of many citizens of their states. And do you feel the citizens are just so docile?
Negative impact and zero positive impact.
No, a strong statement there.
You know, you have known me, Mike, for some time,
Yes.
and you have known what we stand for.
Of course.
Good governance and nothing more. I am among the persons that are calling for the reduction of patronage, political patronage, this juicy kind of politics that we play. You know, one way to do that, if it is possible, we should narrow political offices to our minimum wage as well. You receive salary, receive payments just like our civil servants. Because the truth is that the resources is enormous to go around. Because I'm a developmental person. I know the level at which the people are impoverished. For example, during the campaigns, we decided to go around by ourselves, not by proxy. And it was a rigorous process. Because why? You need to feel the impulse of the people. These people are suffering. What is, like our comrade said here, what are their immediate needs? Is it being met by the government? Is it being met by those who have been representing them? And one of the reasons why these governors, you know, they are so lackadaisical is because we have poor lawmaking mechanism in various states, if not all, in all the states. Because you tend to see a governor dictating who becomes the Speaker of the House of Assembly. In the states, you tend to see the governor dictating who holds principal offices and who various committees of the House is being allocated to. That is not separation of power.
And that's the power Chief Edwin Clark is talking about.
That is not separation of power. Since 1999 to date, I think in the first quarter of the 1999, 2003, and then 2007, we saw governors being removed by House of Assembly. From 2007 to date, how many governors have we said, you know, the House of Assembly came together and said, this governor, we are passing the vote of no confidence on? Is it because the governors are no longer misbehaving? Is it because the governors are no longer, diverting funds meant for public good to themselves? It's because they've seen that the only way to succeed is to pocket these House of Assembly members, being the lawmakers, and then they go away with the kind of tirade that we are saying. So what we are saying is every developmental stride politically begins with the lawmaking system in each state. Until the lawmakers know their duty, they hold the governors responsible for every single action, either by power or by resources available to be dispensed to the people. Until they do this, we'll keep on, coming here to discuss this issue. So that is why people like us, we decided to say, no, look, let's have a paradigm shift politically. Let's have the right persons. Let's have the right laws. Let's, discuss in a round table, feel the impulse of the people, get to know what they need, their immediate need, and then prepare them into law.
Clement, we'll still get more of your impulse on what you feel about it, but we need to go on a break. Also to you, Comrade Efe-Odomo, we need to go on a break now, but when we come back, we'll continue our discussion as we look at that very statement coming from no other but Chief Edwin Clark on account of governors far being wealthier than their states, basically on corruption. Well, how can they even do it? But anyway, we need to go on a break.